So, hello and welcome everybody to our webinar about 11 customer behavior trends that changed in 2020. We're super excited to have all of you here today. As we said, like more than 150 people actually then signed up in the last days to come in and join this webinar today. And I will start with a little introduction about myself. I hope the slide jumps to the next one. Yes, here we go. So my name is Stefan Erschwendner. I'm managing partner of LHBS and SignMesh. And actually, in case you don't know us, I will tell you then a little bit about the two companies, what we're doing and why we're doing this webinar here. But before we come to that, I wanted to give you like a quick outlook of the webinar, what we've planned and how we will run through. As discussed, I will do like a little intro presentation for you in the beginning. We will then listen to the presentation from Fabiola, and then at the end of the session, we are planning a Q&A session. And so hopefully you join in with questions and we have a bit of a discussion afterwards with Fabiola to go maybe a little bit deeper in some of the signs and patterns that she discovered over the last weeks. Before we get going, we should talk about some house rules here. Basically, just like 3 things. As you discovered, your microphone is muted by default, which we're using for this webinar option. Nevertheless, we want to interact with you. So you also see somewhere down here the option for a Q&A button, and then you can ask questions. We're going to monitor the questions and we'll try to answer them in between. So if you have any questions, if you want to know more about it, then please use that feature. And also please be aware that we are recording the webinar. So also your questions are going to be recorded in case you put them in. I guess in terms of house rules, that's it. A little bit about us. As we said, LHBS is a strategy and innovation consultancy. We work with leading companies and we help them to generate new growth by helping them improve their product, services, and customer journeys. At the end of the day, our clients benefit from having more customers, better experiences for their customers, and ultimately additional revenues. And while this is more the innovation side of what we're going to hear about it, we teamed up with our partner company SignMesh, which is a digital trend and innovation platform. And SignMesh usually works together with innovation teams on corporate side and helps them to stay ahead of the competition by identifying customer trends very early and showing them best practices of innovations across industries. And if you know SignMesh, then you also know that one of the benefits or some of the benefits are that you have like this multi-platform of mobile and desktop, that you also have like a newsletter service included and a bunch of integration that makes it easier for people to use that. And yeah, so we teamed up with SignMesh to actually bring you this webinar today. And a little bit about like the context, what was actually driving us to do that. Like 3 things that we discovered, which we thought were like really interesting, is what we can see happening now with COVID-19 is like that some of the existing trends in consumer behavior actually got like really amplified, either in a positive or in a negative way. Or to say it with other words, change that usually takes like a couple of years now happened actually in a couple of months, and people just had to adapt to this new reality. What this also meant is that like the old balance of supply and demand got like a little bit shaken up, and consumers and their expectations moved on and actually opened up a gap for companies. And we see that like some of the smart companies that actually Fabiola is going to show you afterwards are already using those new consumer behavior patterns and actually adjusted their offerings to this new reality or the new normal. And this is basically what we wanted to bring closer to you in this webinar today, is like, hey, how did life change actually from looking at consumer behavior, and how are some of the smartest companies adapting their offerings, trying to take advantage out of that. And all the information that we actually used for the webinar, what you're going to see, come basically from 2 sources. We're actually in contact with a lot of people from innovation teams on corporate side. So we did a couple of qualitative interviews with them, what's happening there, what they see in their industries happening. And then we also access basically the database from SignMesh, which also gives us like a global perspective on consumer behavior and the best practices from innovation. So that was basically the intro from our side. I hope you have like a little bit of context of what we're doing and why we're doing that. And for the next, I guess, like 35, 40 minutes, my colleague Fabiola will actually take over. She is also the product owner of SignMesh and knows the product and the platform better than anybody else. At the same time, she is also working at LHBS as a senior consultant. And basically combining the two things, what Fabiola does all day is trying to identify emerging consumer behavior patterns and then helping companies to use those opportunities and turn them into product, service, and customer journey innovations. And that was it from my side. I will come back in for the Q&A. So if you have questions, please use the function below. I will then join in for the questions and then moderate a Q&A session at the end. And then I pass it on to my colleague, Fabiola.
Thank you very much, Steph, and thank you for the introduction. So from my side, I would like to also welcome you to everybody who joined just now. And please sit back, relax. I'm going to try to take you through the 11 trends, which is quite a lot in the smoothest way possible. Give you some really cool examples of leading brands out there. And basically what you can expect is that what we're going to start with a little bit of business context of what has happened, what companies have been pushing, who has been doing it good, who has been failing. As step number 2, we're going to dive into those trends and signs together with the examples. And we're going to finish with some, a little bit of direction from our side of how to start actually to deliver against those changing and growing trends. So, okay, I guess with no further ado, I'm just going to start. Basically, the recent pandemic has shown and made it really clear for everybody, well, where the actual true customer demand is. What companies started doing right at the very beginning is to actually cut their budgets, which were mainly actually connected to marketing and communication. And we could see this clearly, for example, with stuff like influencer marketing, where from one day to the other, what has happened is that the leading influencers of this world, instead of promoting high-end fashion brands and amazing travel experiences, have actually switched to promoting and showing you how to make the best cheesecake and which mascarpone to use for that, or actually which chewing gum is the best for you these days. So we could see really a lot of change here. There has been actually a lot of right and wrongs done by the companies. There has been good and bad examples, which I'm going to also share in a second. But one thing I wanted to make clear, that in times like these, whatever actually companies have been doing will actually define how they will be perceived for months and years to come by their customers, by their employees, by their partners. So it was actually those who actually took time and thought about the consequences of what they were doing, were winning this race. And that was absolutely not Adidas. Yeah. So Adidas, big fail from their side with the rent freeze. So as soon as the pandemic started, as soon as the lockdown started in Germany, what they requested is rent freeze for their retail spaces. I actually included here a tweet from Katharina Barley, who is a German politician. She's also the member of European Parliament. And she has tweeted here that basically this is the last Adidas pair that she has ever bought, because she is really not expecting a little bit more from a huge company that generated more than 3 billion win in 2019. And also in Germany, we have actually been receiving, or big companies have been receiving, massive rescue packages. So Adidas realized this not soon enough, because they issued actually a proper apology, but again, a little bit too late, on their website, where they were acknowledging that they made a mistake and that they will try to win the trust of the customers back as soon as they can. On the other hand, we have seen a phenomenon which is called narco philanthropy. And please don't get me wrong here, I by no means support this kind of stuff, but it's still interesting thing to share. So what has happened in Mexico and has been kicked off by Sinaloa cartel. Here a little bit of my Netflix knowledge, I think, is helping. So the Sinaloa cartel, just to win the popular support, has been doing what the Mexican government has failed to do, which means help people that have been maybe less fortunate, living in rural areas, and they have been delivering those care packages to them with basically actual basic supplies that they need. And the point that I would like to make here is that if in times of global crisis, actual criminals are showing us the way on how to do things, there is something really wrong with how companies operate these days. Moving on, Corona crisis has been nothing actually but a catalyst for innovation. And this has been highly driven by digitalization and agility, two terms that actually I would like to dive a little bit deeper in and show that they are not buzzwords anymore, because I think over the last years they have unfortunately gained the status of a buzzword, but we couldn't be further away from the truth actually. So I think that a lot of companies during the lockdown, during the pandemic, have actually had this great reality check where they realized, and it has been made really transparent on how far they are really with digitalization, meaning how fast they are able to move their operations and deliver true value to the customer through digital channels. And whether you like it or not, you gotta actually start loving it, because this is the future. This is what you need to do right. And why? Because in actually recent studies are showing that we have actually fast forwarded 5 years in consumer and business digital adoption in the matter of just around 8 weeks. This is what always happens in a crisis. It's an accelerator. In this case, it's been an accelerator in the adoption of digital. And to be honest, customers are also already there and they're waiting and ready. Other studies are showing that 75% of people already using actually digital channels for the first time are indicating that they will continue to do so when things return to the new normal. Therefore, digital will undoubtedly play a center stage in years to come, and definitely, quickly pivoting this kind of business agenda in the turbulent times will be critical for any, let's say, recovery in case your business have been hit, or just striving in the future. The next term that I was mentioning before, and I would like to, or let's say not maybe term, but mindset, way of doing things, which means agility. I would like to dive a bit deeper into this one as well. And I would like to start with a quote from Bill Gates, which I think is more valid today than ever before. Because in general, what is actually the common thread between businesses that have been winning today? And it all boils down to business agility. And in simple terms, business agility is actually ability for business to be adaptive, to be creative and flexible, to actually find solutions to combat this kind of changing environment. What is actually a really good sign is that the studies that I've been stumbling upon are showing that 72% of employees are saying that their teams are already working with greater agility than before. So this is already happening. Talking from a little bit of a different angle, constraint, and in case of COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a lot of those. I think we all felt it. So this constraint can actually be the best catalyst for creativity and agility. And I would like to show two businesses that have done things extremely good. One is going to be a local business from Berlin. So we are actually tuning in from Berlin, in case you didn't know. And this is a restaurant that is pretty high end, offering gourmet food, quite expensive. And what the team there has been able to quickly do is change from offering those kind of really amazing dinner experiences to people to offering bread. So they turned from basically from one day to the other into a bakery, which has been received extremely well by the community and their fans. So people were queuing up to just get this bread, which was, by the way, a little bit expensive as well. But hey, nobody cared to pay the price because they all wanted to support the local business that they respect. And people will remember this kind of things. People will remember when you actually were able to react fast and accordingly and actually try to help in some way. Another example, which is a little bit bigger, it comes from Zalando. And Zalando has also been pretty impressive in the way that, with their agile mindset and agile way of doing things, because they quickly, during the pandemic, they quickly realized, of course, the biggest pain point of small business owners and those brick and mortar stores, that they just have no way of delivering and selling any product to their customers. So what they did is they really fast, because I think the first press release around this, like maybe a week or two after the lockdown started, they actually launched their connected retail offer, where they were offering their own platform to small and medium shops to actually sell their products, helping using Zalando's infrastructure. To finish up with this, I would like to share the case from Berlin as well. So this is the best case, let's say, of a minimum viable product that we have seen recently. And we've actually been here at LHBS quite excited about this one, because if you think about it, we've been actually getting pretty excited about Amazon delivering things in the same day or next day latest. But what those guys in Berlin are starting to do is they actually make a promise to deliver products to you within 10 minutes. The selection that they have is pretty narrow. So this is basically the products that you can find in your local corner store. But still, it's pretty great. And as I said, it's a perfect MVP approach, which means that they started with, low selection, and also they are serving one neighborhood in Berlin. In case you're from Berlin and you don't know, it works in Prenzlauer Berg, but we're also closely monitoring them, and we're really curious on how they're actually gonna go forward. And we hope that they will, just succeed. And if you look at all those cases, basically, that I have just presented in the business part of my presentation, there is, again, one thing that all those cases have in common. And this is the theme that I'm going to be repeating all over again, because this is really important. All those companies have actually put people first, put their customers first, and actually really delivered on the changing needs and changing demands of people. One thing of actually where to start understanding people and their values, because in general what people are doing now is that, of course, they are rethinking what value means to them. And I think the best representation for that, to kind of where to start, is that it's very simple. Like when the pandemic started, we all, basically the whole world was more or less in the same situation, and all of us were experiencing similar things. So the good start is to understand that the changes that we have been experiencing at home and that have been happening to us are exactly the same for our customers. And what happened is that people started to, of course, spend money with greater consideration, because they were not sure about what's going to happen tomorrow, if they're still going to have the job. they started to purchase more things online because, again, we were in lockdown, which means that also they started to care more about convenience. They started to consume less mass media and focus more on, let's say, those local influencers, such as their family, friends, and communities, just because they were starting to look actually for real lifestyle recommendations, and not, you know, some crazy adventures that somebody would try to sell them over Instagram. So this is the end of part one, and I would, Steph, are there any questions so far?
So far, there was only one question regarding the presentation. And yes, all of you will get the presentation also as a download. We're going to send out an email with the link to the presentation afterwards. So it's not necessary that you take screenshots at the moment or that you write down stuff. You will get the full presentation as a PDF. That was the only question so far.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I continue. And as mentioned before, we dived already a bit deeper into the business context of what is happening. And now let's get going on the actual science and best practices. This is the list, let's say, of signs of change that we have identified. And I'm going to go through all of them one by one to finally reach number one someone, I don't know, in 20 minutes. Let's hope. Okay, good. There's one thing that's actually worth mentioning. So if you manage to skim through them, or maybe I'm just going to go one slide back. If you manage to skim through all of those, you can see that there is nothing extremely new about all those things, because in general, what has happened is that people have verified a lot of stuff. They have actually verified and understood what is really important. And to be honest, it seems that everything is back to basics, but just better, faster, cheaper, and digital. And most importantly, to repeat it again, everything is done for the people and with people in mind. And what people actually care about these days more to get from brands and business in general is functional benefits over those emotional and aspirational benefits that brands were pushing at us basically pre-COVID, in the pre-COVID world. Okay, let's start with trend number 11, which is financial peace of mind. Of course, people started to be more careful about how they spend their money. Unfortunately, some people were you know, lost their jobs, so maybe they have less money to spend. But the belief in general that which studies are showing is that people are aware and are ready for that their finances will actually be impacted for months to come. And how have companies actually been alleviating this money stress, let's say, connected with that? And Hyundai, for example, has relaunched their assurance service, which is a job protection service. And in case you lost your job due to COVID-19, they would cover up to 6 months of payments for the car that you have just bought or you're leasing and you need to pay off. Other cool thing happened here with Contist. Contist is a German neobank that's focused on freelancers. And Contist, of course, wanted to make sure that their customers are able to secure the liquidity of their business. And they organized a hackathon. And the result of the hackathon was that they developed this really simple few clicks tool to apply for tax relief to the government. Ergo, on the other hand, has also been playing around with their insurance business, because what they've been saying is that, okay, on normal days, you know, kids are spending their time at school and they're completely covered by school insurance in case something is happening. But when there's lockdown, everybody's at home. So what happens with kids there? They're not covered at all. So what they started to do is offering their customers free temporary accident insurance coverage for their kids. Trend number 10, which is called new online replacement. In general, each crisis is teaching people to be resourceful. And in this case, you needed to, as a business also, you needed to become more resourceful to transfer offline experiences to online replacements of those. And I would like to start here with best practice coming from China. Okay, I have to admit that I really tried to learn how to pronounce this name, and I've been even practicing with Google Translate, but not gonna do it. So I'm gonna skip the name, and just gonna say to you that this is a cosmetic company that used to be focused on retail and giving like offline, let's say, advisory to their customers. When the pandemic started in China, they were unfortunately forced to close more than 40% of their business. And they quickly turned to DingTalk and WeChat and pushed all their advisors to the online world. And they generated a lot of win with this. So basically, in comparison to February last year, they generated 120% more revenue. So this has been a really nice example coming from Asia. Going on back to Europe, Carrefour supermarket also wants to mimic, let's say, the experience that you have in real life. And they are offering, actually working with Google to offer you this voice order possibility of products via your own smartphone. Moving on to trend number 9, it's called Repurpose and Reimagine tools. So basically what people have learned to do is to repurpose and reimagine tools for completely new needs, such as, for example, transforming existing ones for social or brand experience, where this type of, let's say, experience has not been associated with particular tool at all. I hope I just made sense. If not, I'm sure that the examples are gonna make it clear for you. So here is a case from William Grant and Sons with collaboration of Brewdog, where the bars have been closed, and as a response to this, those companies have launched something that's called digital bars on Zoom, where they were hosting guest bartenders and other great people that were creating amazing experiences for visitors. Gucci, on the other hand, has used Snapchat as a way to try on their shoes and garments. And similar thing happened with Bola, that also used not Snapchat, but Instagram at this time, and the AR technology to let you try their newest pair of sunglasses. Jumping to trend number 8, it's called direct to home. And clearly people were shifting to online and digital solutions, and they were looking for reduced contact channels, and they started to expect actually services or products to be kind of like, let's say, delivered to their home. And this is what happened with Signature Brew, who is a small brewery and small bar chain. And what they did is they started to send you a care package, I would put it this way, to your doorstep, where they were, of course, packing it with, first of all, beer, but not only, because also snacks, but also games, so stuff that would just make your evening more enjoyable. Next case comes from IKEA. We have already been talking about IKEA today before, but this is a completely different context. So IKEA Place app. This is something that IKEA has been actually working for quite a while, and it used to be a standalone app. And what it does is it actually helps you, or using AR technology, you can place IKEA furniture within your own home. And what they've been actually trying to do now and accelerate a bit, the usage of this app, is that they combined it together with their e-commerce experience, so that people could imagine the furniture a little bit better. I'm going to move on to trend number 7, which is called "You Come to Me." So many businesses have, actually, how to put it in a better way. I think that actually venues of services have where services are being performed have changed. So from this approach of "you come to us," it all changed to "you come to me." And here I would like to share something from Henkel. And Henkel has been recently piloting this service in Germany, which is called Persil Sneaker Clean, where the only thing that you need to do is pack your dirty sneakers in the DHL box, send to them, and you will get in a matter of days your sneakers sent back to you completely clean. Vitra. This is an example from a furniture company that has already actually also started to pilot for a short amount of time this service where you could rent your home office equipment. I think that this guy is not so happy about it, but there is a happy guy in the next example. I like to call this kind of initiatives those pop-up online services. And they, I think in the beauty industry in general, a lot of those have been happening. And this is a platform that has also like emerged from one day to the other, where you could be paired with a world-class hairstylist or a barber who could later on actually give you tips on how to properly cut your hair through a video chat. Next trend is called virtual event experiences. So I guess events is part of, let's say, business that has been hit, unfortunately, really hard. I'm not sure when those guys will be actually able to resume their normal activities. But in the meantime, it's time to actually start thinking of new formats for their events, whether that be fashion shows or concerts and even business meetups. So in general, I think that we can be sure that those Minecraft raves that I've been also reading about are here to stay for a longer time with us. And since actually it's time, so this time of year, it's the Paris Couture Fashion Week happening. And this year obviously couldn't be done in the normal way. So Balmain has actually kicked off their digital couture week on a boat where they were cruising through the river. People could actually watch them from riverbanks, where it was great because of course the social distancing rules have been observed. There was everything was live streamed, also on TikTok. A pretty cool event that got a lot of good publicity, and also on top of everything, they were supporting or they showed some artistic support to Black Lives Matter movement. The next one comes from Yamaha, from Japan, and this company has developed an app that lets you remote cheer for your favorite team. And this is not everything, because I think that the coolest thing about it is that your team that's actually playing a match right now can hear what their fans are actually cheering towards them. So playing alone at the stadium shouldn't be such a big problem anymore. Next example is focused on business a little bit more. So I think that a lot of us, sorry to make this assumption, but I think a lot of us can agree that Zoom fatigue is a real thing. And seeing people in the same boxes every day, basically hour by hour, is something that you can get really tired with. Microsoft Teams has actually realized it, and what they are offering, let's say, is a more real life setup where they are just placing people in the virtual auditorium. And I would make a short stop here right now and ask you, Steph, again, if there's any questions.
Yes, we have basically the first two questions that are connected together, and I think these are really good questions. And the question is like, do you think that the functional benefit being more important than the emotional benefit trend will impact also the fashion industry, or especially the fashion industry communication?
That's actually a really good question. That's a really good question. I'm not sure I've been actually making up my mind exactly about what that means, but I think for sure, because this is something that, as I said, it's something really important what has actually happened, and it has happened really, really fast. So people started to see and to understand what actual value brands and business are bringing to them. Hence, what happened with actual influencers, that the things that they were doing before. I'm mentioning it again because I'm actually really curious what's going to happen with this, because we've been talking here also at LHBS before, that we think that, hey, we don't think that this way of doing marketing is going to be so valid anymore. And we can already see a big change there, that there's not so much push against that. And whatever fashion shows we're now seeing are also trying to give an extra benefit to what they are doing. Yeah. So Dior, for example, and their recent fashion show, I'm not sure it happened like yesterday or something, has been on top of showing, let's say, their clothes. They've been promoting a region in Italy, so they are trying to look for a little bit more reason and more meat to why they have to stay relevant. And the same happened with Gucci, for example, that Gucci right now is instead of hiring models, they're using their own employees to actually showcase their clothes. So there is something happening there, that fashion brands are actually looking for more meaning, and let's just hope it's all going to go more into this functional benefit side of life, rather than trying to sell you this crazy lifestyle that they were trying to do before.
Yeah, so I think you already answered the second question, which was actually what would be like examples of how brands could react basically to this situation now. But I think you covered that. Otherwise, if you have anything more to add, what fashion brands could do, then please do so. Otherwise, that's it from the questions.
Okay, then I'm going forward with trend number 5, which is called virtual travel, which has actually been a niche for quite a while before, but of course this crisis have accelerated it. If not only, like, let's say, for good, but at least for the taste of what can happen when we can actually freely travel again, I hope quite soon. And here, Airbnb and TripAdvisor, they've both been actually offering quite some great experiences. TripAdvisor has actually been focused on teaming up with small business operators and has been offering more than 100 experiences. Airbnb went a little bit too crazy with what they were offering, because I will just also need my notes for this not to make a mistake. So one of my favorites here were experiences that they were offering on their platform were mystical coffee and fortune reading, or virtual visits with the dogs of Chernobyl. And I'm going to leave you with that and move on to the next example, which is coming from Denmark. And Denmark has come up with an initiative that you could rent a local that would be wearing a camera and responding to your sightseeing commands from basically the comfort of your own couch. So you basically, as a tourist, could control your own route. Going quickly to trend number 4, which is security and safety. And just one thing, that it's of course really important given what has been happening in the last months and weeks. And the most important thing to understand about this is that our customers no longer have to trade experience for security, because those have been going hand in hand for a while already. And here are a couple of examples, starting with the Coca-Cola one that also Steph mentioned before, with people who joined us earlier. And this is a machine, that's this freestyle soda machine that actually has been you know, out there in restaurants where you can do your refills of your drinks. It has been working with touchscreen and you know, to provide a little bit more safety to people. They did quite a nice innovation there, placing a QR code on the screen that you could scan with your phone and then use your phone, let's say, as a remote control to operate it. Next one coming from Aldi, and Aldi developed a really simple system, let's say, for their supermarkets, which is a traffic light system. So obviously, if in case the shop is empty enough that you can go in, the light is green. In case it's too many people inside and you have to wait, the light is red and the door is locked. Zara has also been playing around quite a lot to offer better experience in the retail spaces. And here, one of the most exciting examples was that you will be soon able to actually reserve fitting room via your own smartphone. Now let's travel quickly to Russia, and KFC there is also coming up with quite a bizarre, I would say, maybe not bizarre, let's put it differently, futuristic example where they want to create this contact-free restaurant where there's also no employees, but who is serving you? An actual robot. So you get your fried chicken from a robot. Very similar to the trend before, but still a little bit different. It's all about addressing health concerns. So what people are expecting these days is not only safety and security, but they're expecting also to be continuously reassured and reminded about the things that will keep them safe. And here I would like to start with the example of this wearable. So it's a necklace, and it actually is going to let you know once you're too close to other people. And no worries, it's not going to electrocute you. It's just going to play you a little sound or show you some light in case you are not within a safe distance to others. Edeka in Germany, which is also a supermarket, is testing this, or actually has this robot in several of their places. So it's Pepper, a really cute guy, and he's basically reminding you about those proper social distancing behavior in the store while shopping. With this example, we would like to travel to Africa with you, to Ethiopia. And what this telecom has done is that they developed and equipped their own customers with those mandatory ringtones. And those ringtones were basically reminding or informing you about the social distancing rules, reminding you about washing your hands and similar things to just keep you safe. Okay, we're almost coming to an end. This is trend number 2. It's called easy in, easy out. In general, people have been at the beginning of the lockdown and the pandemic experiencing a lot of, I guess, problems with last minute canceling of especially their trips. I think this has been the biggest pain point and the conversation point, like, you know, what happened with your flight tickets in case you cannot go. And businesses actually have been trying to accommodate that. And already mentioned travel industry, because this one is really interesting and we see little change here. So basically travel industry is one of the most rigid industries that are there. Especially for, let's say, more expensive services. You have zero flexibility almost as a customer unless you pay for it, and you have to usually pay a great deal of money to be able to get some flexibility with your bookings, with your plane tickets and similar things. So what Get Your Guide started to do is they started offering you this 100% money back cancellation policy. And a similar thing is happening with Qatar Airways, who I guess can afford it in times like these. So they've been offering at least till the end of the year this flexible booking policy, where in case you got their ticket, you can actually change your destination and also the dates of your flights, unlimited time and for free. Netflix has also pushed a really nice story out there about those reminders that they were sending to people who have inactive accounts on Netflix. And this idea is nothing new, but especially in times like these, I think that they made a really good move pushing this kind of communication, because it became a really nice PR story that Netflix actually cares if you are active users of their service or not. And in case you're not, they would ask you to just cancel, that you don't pay unnecessarily. And ladies and gentlemen, we arrived at trend number 1, which is called affordable light version. And it's strictly connected also with money and with people redefining the value of products, services, and especially hardware. And here I would like to start with the example from Apple that has also pretty quickly launched iPhone SE. So the version of the iPhone that has been really like a lot cheaper than normally. It looked like iPhone 8 or looks like iPhone 8, but actually has the specs similar to those of iPhone 11. Fun fact about this is that actually in the US, it seems like they are also turning Android users back to Apple, because almost 30% of people who bought iPhone SE have been Android users before. Another thing coming from Apple is that they also are trying to make their products a little bit more, let's say, affordable or seem manageable to pay. And they have introduced this service of installments that you can make with any Apple products using your Apple card. Fast follower Samsung, of course, also started to think about, you know, those affordable 5G handsets, especially for Indian and Chinese market, where they seem to be losing. And just next to it, the same thing is happening actually with Google. So I read also like a couple of days ago that Google is now working with an Indian company to develop an affordable phone, this for the same markets, India and China, but also of course worldwide. And here I would like to finish with the example from the BMW. We already promised you this one, so let's get into more detail with it. BMW has announced that they are planning to launch a subscription service for their in-car features, like for example, seat heating or cruise control. But this hasn't been actually so well received by the customers, because obviously if you're a BMW buyer, you actually already spend a lot of money by buying a luxury car, so you don't feel like actually paying for extra features. But we still think this example is quite cool, let's say it has potential, because it shows us that actually business models can be slightly redefined, and maybe by, you know, lowering the price for a luxury car, you can later on make up for, let's say, the loss that you had with stuff like subscription services or some kind of rental services next to it. So there is something in there. Let's hope that BMW takes it the right way and don't make their customers angrier. Okay, to sum up, I would like to say again that there is a huge opportunity right there, and companies seem to start to get it, because 47% of global organizations are reporting that there is a need for product and service innovation. And this is a quite some increase from, let's say, pre-corona times. But in our opinion, this number is still too low. And to say it again and again and again, all the winning companies that we have mentioned today have one thing in common. They understand what people need right now, and they develop their products and services and push their innovations having this thing in mind. And on a positive note, I would like to say that actually crisis like this is not the end of the world. It's actually an accelerator. Of course, it has been quite unexpected disruption of our normal life, but at least as a result, we as a society are forced to evolve, and quicker than we had to before. So basically all those behavioral changes together with adoption and application of new technologies and together with re-evaluation of values and priorities are leading to those rapid and long-lasting shifts in customer expectations and how how the demand is for new products and services, and how actually and the market share and position. Yeah. So your customers are expecting your action and reaction. So start by thinking how to actually deliver value to them, because if you deliver value to your customers, your customers will deliver value back to your business. And time is running, things are happening fast, so better start going on it. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention. Let's stay in touch. So in case you're interested, please follow LHBS on LinkedIn. We're always trying to push nice information, cases and news and frameworks there. So you can always find something interesting. If you have any questions to me or you would like to stay connected, please find me also on LinkedIn. And with this, I would like, again, thank you all. I hope it was a good experience, and I pass it on to Steph.
Thank you, Fabiola. Really great examples. And one of your last slides was your customers are expecting a reaction from you. The same is happening now with our participants, because we have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
And the question number one is like, which of those examples do actually scale into like broader proposition, or I guess are more visible or addressing basically like a bigger market?
I think that all the examples, something that I was also personally quite interested in and passionate about, is this change in the travel industry again. So I already said also before that this industry has been nothing but rigid. Once for your flight, for your stay in the hotel, to get out of it, it was a nightmare. So I think that, you know, this pandemic has shown that, you know, a lot of people's plans have been canceled, needed to be rescheduled, and this has been happening all over the world and globally. And with you know, usually travel companies are also global companies. Therefore, I think that they need to start delivering something more flexible to people. So I think that one for sure has a potential to, you know, it's for sure a global change and a sign of global change in consumers and their expectations. And let's just hope that you know, travel companies that are really troubled these days, especially airlines, are trying to, you know, find it. And you can see the ones that have more money, such as Qatar, are trying out new things and seeing also, I believe, how this is being used by the customers. So yeah, let's hope that this one, actually, I think that this one has the biggest potential to go global.
Okay, thank you. Then the next question is related to, I guess, more business strategy. So the question is that there were a couple of examples of obviously like how companies adjusted now to like this new customer demand. And do you think it's better for those customers that they should try to scale those innovations on a larger level, which could become also costly? Or should companies just see it as a temporary innovation initiatives that they do and actually try to switch back to the old way of working and running their business once we're out of this crazy COVID storm?
I think, sorry to break this to you, but I think that there is no way of going back to business as we knew it before. So that's I would say that it's the first thing. And in general, this really depends on how well the particular product or service that they have pushed or innovation has been working. So I hope that whatever innovations have been pushed by those companies out there are properly set to be tracked. Like, let's say, how are customers actually receiving it? How well it's performing? Is it actually bringing us at the end of the day more money? And are our customers actually staying with us? So all those things need to be measured and taken into consideration. And based on this, I would say it needs to be decided whether this particular innovation should stay or be treated as a temporary thing.
Okay, so we're going more. Next question, we're going more into basically the business benefits. And the question was like, have you been able to quantify the business benefits of the companies that actually, implemented like some of the science that you showed here?
Apart from the ones that I was, let's say, mentioning. So first of all, this Chinese example where this company actually transferred all their beauty advisors from offline to online. So this, I found numbers for this, that for example, they grew their business by 100% in comparison to the year before. The same was when I was talking about this Apple SE iPhone, where they were able actually to also track that they were attracting in the US market almost 30% of Android users. So those were the hard facts that I was able to find. Was there anything else? Let me recall. So for some, for sure. And if you, Steph, remember the person later on that asked this question, I would gladly also answer by, going back quickly to my presentation later, not to waste time. But at least those two actually have seen quite a massive benefit.
Okay, we are going to do that. And the next question is like, or basically it started with like saying, thank you for the excellent talk, Fabiola. And then the question is like, are there more innovations related to B2B companies that you are actually seeing nowadays and that you think are also like significant and important?
From B2B companies, from the top of my head, I'm not recalling anything right now, but again, I will be happy to think about it for a little while and come back to the person that's been asking this question. Steph, do you recall any significant innovation in B2B? Because we've been actually, yeah.
I think B2B is always like a bit tricky because it's like less easy to spot. Because obviously you're operating like in a more closed environment, depending on like a certain niche. And I think it's obviously easier to spot B2C companies since everybody from us is a customer. Yeah. So we have one more question, and that is actually regarded to financial companies, like for example, like banks. Do you think that they are leaders or laggards when it comes now to adapting to this new environment? Because Greg has the feeling that especially in the US, that's not really the case, that they would lead those kind of initiatives.
Oh yeah, definitely there are leaders and laggards, and in the financial industry, we're also like have a pretty peculiar situation here in Germany. That on one side we have a lot of established banks that are totally not ready with digitalization, and we could see how many problems they had with their branches and actually to offer services to their customers through online. It was just basically impossible. And then on the other side, we have, those neobanks. I was mentioning, for example, Contis, but we also have banks like N26. Revolut from UK is also present here, and they have been delivering extremely great value to their customers, where everything is just perfect. And this is also what I meant at the beginning when I was talking about digitalization, that for some companies, it has been a true reality check how far along they are. And if any kind of like, let's say, innovations within digitalization they are doing, are they actually answering customer pain points? And with financial industry, I think especially in developed markets where you have those established players, and I imagine it's also hard for them to switch, quite fast to digital and offer just better experiences there. But still, they need to be doing this in order to survive against the competitors that are coming. So yes, both of them are present.
Okay, thank you. These were all questions that we got.
Thank you so much for the questions and for staying and participating. Yeah, so that's from me. I hope you enjoyed it. We're gonna share with you the deck so you can take a look at the best practices again. And Steph, maybe hand it over to you now.
Yeah, also from my side, thank you all for joining in. It was really great to have you here. Thank you for participating. And as we said before, you're going to receive an email afterwards, which has like the download link for the presentation. We also recorded the video, so you will also receive then a link with the YouTube video. So in case you want to see an example again, or you want to share it with one of your colleagues, there will be a possibility for you to just easily forward a YouTube link. And that's what it's from our side. Thank you again for joining in. Thank you again, Fabiola, for putting together this presentation and webinar. And then I wish all to you like a good afternoon and a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Take care.